Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's no pressure, I'll be waiting, and I'll channel this energy so I can give you all of me. All of me. It's been 11 days and 11 nights, and I've been thinking about you constantly and all the time. Baby, I'd even go down on my knees just to get to
Welcome. Back. I'm off hiatus, people. Let's get some hand claps in there, some applause. We're back. Welcome. This is the Simply King podcast, and this is your boy Rodney Perry, King himself, and you just tuned into the Soulfully Conscious podcast for humans, simply being humans. And so, I want you all to understand that it was a decent break. I always go on hiatus for the month of January for the past several years now, just to reset, to, get my shit back together. But welcome back. Welcome back to all those who've been waiting, and welcome for the first time for the folks who are just now finding me. I appreciate you for coming to see me. As I said before, this is the Soulfully Conscious podcast for humans, simply being humans. The content that I provide here for all of the uninitiated is really just great male-led content. More about that later. I'm here to talk my shit. I gotta just keep it very, very bluntly with you. I'm here to talk all my shit. My podcast has been operating and been in production for the past 6 years and counting. I've featured over 50 or so different women, about 75 plus guests. I have almost 200 podcasts that you can go and check out that are available for you to listen to. And if you find something toxic or worth me canceling me for, please let me know. This is why we're here. Today we're talking about men in podcast. I hope you brought your ears to listen. Let's get into it. This is Simply King. First, thank you all for watching the Simply King podcast. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe. And also share it if you're enjoying it. But I wanted to tell you all about why my YouTube page is called Life is King. Life is King is actually the name of my creative production company as well as my digital marketing company. And I want to let you know that I am here to be of service to you. I can provide the same things that I do for myself to create content for your business. I service content creators, small business owners, as well as just singular or, team of entrepreneurs. I know it's hard to keep up with social media, so I can help you with that content. You may just need some help and assistance and consultation on getting that idea out of your mind and into the real world. So check me out at lifeisking.com. You can send me an email at create@lifeisking.com so to get the conversation started. So, hope y'all enjoying the podcast. Here's the rest of it now. Peace. So, today I have to get into the topic that honestly affects me. Affects me and what I do here with this podcast. That being, honestly, me being a man, me being a heterosexual man doing a podcast. While I was down, the thing that went viral several times and honestly has created probably one of the funniest genres of TikTok and just one of the sides of the internet of just in those, sketchy impersonation type of content. And that's men on podcast. So if you couldn't tell by the title, we're talking men and podcasting today. So let us start with a Twitter check-in because a lot of the damage, a lot of the reckoning happened on Twitter. So why don't we get the birds chirping? So I had to go to Twitter, right? And I had to sit here and ask myself, like, all right, how do I even start? Because it's already been so much. This stuff has been viral. Do I want to search Fresh and Fit? Do I want to search men and podcasts? Oh, men and podcasts. Let's just search those words, right? So I searched those words in pre-pro and picked out a handful of what I believe to be the general gist. And obviously there's a lot of opinions on this matter, but I feel like it does the trick, right? So we have from at Exo Gabby L. That's Gabby L. Pod roast is for hardworking, building machine handling men anyway. You podcast poodles don't deserve pod roast. Pod roast was a thing on the internet yesterday for some reason. Go figure. Then you have at Alani Kitten. I'm assuming that's Alani Kitten, E-L-A-N-I, Alani Kitten. Can men do anything else besides podcast, question mark? Where are they going? When are they going back to war? Then lastly, from at Keating's Sixth. What's wild is black men will go on podcasts bashing black women, trying to get approval from white men and women, just for white men and women to still bash them and say they aren't valuable or real men. Crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji. Laughing. Zendaya meme. Now, I want everybody to understand something. I'm on the side of, I've been a content creator for quite some time now, consistently in this podcasting space, when a lot of people weren't even into it, when a lot of people didn't even know how to start into it, when it was a lot harder, you needed more equipment, different machines, all types of shit, right? But now that it's a lot more accessible, we have a lot more people who believe, because they enjoy the conversation they have with their friends, as most people do, which, letting everybody know, that's not a prerequisite for a podcast, just letting you know. But more about that very soon. Podcasting While Black 101. This is the, you're hearing it here first. Gonna teach you how to do this. Nevertheless, I want you all to understand something. Especially men who are listening to this. We are not under attack. We are not under attack. Our masculinity isn't under attack. We're not. If you feel that way, this is a self-inflicted battle that you're fighting. So many men are on these podcasts, dead ass acting as incels, like quoting incel type of rhetoric. We talking about women of this, women of that, and they got whole ass wives and girlfriends while this shit is happening. It's very strange. Very strange. They have a working and living relationship with their mothers, saying these types of things. Justifying particular things as well. Justifying, literally, deadbeat fathers. Justifying abusive relationships. I've seen a lot on the internet, and I've seen the sketches as well of people trying to kind of make these things into things. Grow your ass up. What the hell is going on? Like, I understand that, trust me, first off, I'm pro podcast. I am a pro podcaster. I'm not one of those people who believes that people should stop making podcasts. I believe I'm on the side of listen to the podcast. If you don't like it, stop listening to it. If no one's listening, maybe they'll stop. But anybody, just like with tweets, just like with any piece of content, they can do it and no one cares. We have to get into that mode with a lot of things. I think this is a good example of a reason why we should, because the fact of the matter is a lot of these people, and I've said it before, I did a whole episode on Kevin Samuels. And was really the last time I ever need to talk about him. And he's kind of becoming yesterday's news, if you didn't notice. But I want y'all to understand something. Why does it matter that these podcast are now in your frame of knowledge. You now know who the fuck the Fresh and Fit bug dudes are. You now know all of these random men who never have been in media, took they earnings from wherever job, wherever thing they were doing and invested heavily too. Like a lot of these sets, like there's some high quality nonsense. You feel me? Some high quality nonsense happening. I want y'all to understand something. All of those podcasts, none of them have to be known. None of them have to be listened to. None of them really have to truly matter to you. But yet, I'm not going to sit here and police what should go viral and what shouldn't, because maybe that's the type of awareness needed to happen. My thing is that we're all getting lumped together. I get the energy when I talk about my podcast to just random people, the people who never met me before, and they say things to me like, they cringe. You know what I'm saying? They cringe. And in most cases, I take on the brunt that I think men collectively, in terms of just presenting violence, presenting unsafe and weird ass situations for women and so many other people. But when it comes to this, I gotta push back. And the reason why I'm pushing back is I've been here the whole time. Me, King, has been here the whole time. Me, Rodney Perry, has been creating for 6 years, and the content I've been creating has only been progressive. It's been introducing you to some cool people that you need to know, that you can patronize, that you can support, that you can get inspiration from, that you can consume their content. And majority of these people identified as women. When I've had men on, we were 9 times out of 10 either talking about healthy forms of masculinity, men being better men, creative things, just positive shit. It was never this room and space to bash women for something. You know what I'm saying? And so you had options is why I'm pushing back. You didn't have to listen to these people. And even if you aren't even fond of them, even if my perspective or a male perspective isn't your cup of tea, that is okay. But what I can't have is the phrase men in podcasting be something that's now changing the flavor in the air. Now changing the scent of hearing that into something that's stank. Like, that's what I get. And I don't like it. I don't like it because now I already had the battle of trying to inform people on what podcasts were almost 7 years ago. In 2015, a lot of black people didn't even know. My mother still to this day probably still thinks that I'm on the radio and she just don't know she is not close enough to catch the dial. That is not the case. Now, a lot more people are initiating into what the medium of podcasting is, and that has really only put us into a position where it's like, y'all don't really need this, because if this is what y'all using it for, y'all need to shut the fuck up. But there are so many black male creatives who are doing positive things, but more about that later. So I want to get into a little bit of the nuance of why this is and talk about all the things. So what I want everybody to understand, somebody who's currently under fire right now, being good old fashioned white men. You feel me? White men are forever in the news. And honestly, it's for a topic that I really can care less about. You have Joe Rogan of the Joe Rogan Experience, a podcast that's been on for, almost going, I feel like 15 years and counting. He's about 2,000 or maybe even 3,000 episodes deep in content. And he actually signed an exclusive deal with Spotify, moving all of his content off of any platform like YouTube and any others on to Spotify exclusively. So his back catalog and everything is on there. Due to people like Neil Young, still, performing musical artist, essentially complained about this kind of, allowing anti-vax commentary on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, for all of you who don't know who this white man is, that is okay. Briefly, if you've watched Fear Factor, That is who Joe Rogan is. Remember, he had people eating bugs and sitting in snakes and worms and eating animal penises. That is what it is. Remember that? There we go. Now we're all together. But he basically made even more of a name for himself through just committing to his comedy career, but also this podcast. And he literally is probably has one of the most unconventional podcasts known to man. It is usually 2 to 3 hours long, and it's literally his guests are honestly the most wide ranging. There's no real true theme. It's literally just people he wants to talk to. So it could be a person who is a rocket scientist, and then another person who is a comedian, and another person who is writing a book, and then another person who's a neuroscientist. It could be anybody. So he stays in the gray, really doesn't choose a side. It's very, very much neutral, you can say. But remind you, I just said that this is a white man. So a white man being neutral, sitting in front of somebody who is anti-vax on the right, racist even, he'll literally sit there and be like, okay, I hear you. Oh, I don't agree, but okay. It may not be too much pushback. It may not be no true questioning. It may not be a debate really happening. It'll just be him being complicit. Even if his complicity is coming because he's not giving pushback. But a lot of people didn't care about that part. They didn't care about the anti-vax things because Neil Young essentially stripped his music from it, and a few others followed him. It didn't really catch the news and really get people riled up until people dug up the many, many niggas that he dropped on his show. Now, somebody went and did a scissor reel, and that's what kind of made it into a thing. NDRE also joined in stripping her music from Spotify, all these different things. Now, the whole Spotify conversation, you can, catch out and get more details on another podcast I do call Another Element. That episode's dropping sometime this week. But nevertheless, I want y'all to understand something. This white man can do what the fuck he want, right? Because he's a white man. He's going to be fine. He's going to be good. And the moral of me bringing up somebody like him is that all black people can stop listening to Joe Rogan and nothing will change. His fan base is his fan base. And it really won't affect us in the world that we live in. But the thing about it is this man has influence. And that's why people are saying things. It's why people are, feel away. Because he can bring people on. But the responsibility of white men is something that I'm not in the business of. I'd rather be responsible for somebody I can touch, black men myself. So that's a whole nother battle to climb. But what I want everybody to understand, I use that example of Joe Rogan being this person where they had to dig this up. He's now, quote unquote, somewhat apologized, and Spotify's removed about 70 different episodes with him saying nigga, all that jazz or whatever. It really doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is he can more than likely still be okay if all black people stop watching and listening to his show. He will be fine. So I feel like we have to be direct about what it is that we want. Be direct about what it is that we desire to come from this particular space. Because men are going to have podcasts. No one's going to stop making podcasts. That's just not going to happen. As long as it's a medium that's free to enter and has low barrier entry, it's going to be a thing. Just like with social media, just like with so many different things. If you can get into it, But this is a game of consistency. How much can you continuously do? Can you keep up with the demand? Are you really down with this shit? Are you? Probably not. So how are you going to keep up? So if these people are not in the business of keeping up with the things, why are you fueling them, motivating them to continuously talk about the bullshit they talk about? Because that's what all is happening. When you sit here and say some goofy ass shit about women on like these Fresh and Fit motherfuckers who've literally garnered all this attention, have been guesting on other podcasts, have been guesting on other podcasts after they literally went viral for being problematic. You understand that? How in the hell can you do something wrong and then get more exposure, which more than likely leads to more money, leads to more opportunity, all these different things. I'm not sitting here saying that somebody shouldn't get paid for terrible content, because it's going to happen regardless if I want to or not. Fox News exists. CMAs, like the country, CMT exists. So many other things. You know, some people like country music. It is what it is. But some of that shit is like, well, nevertheless, all I want to say is these men were shamed for the content they were creating and are failing up. Ironically, make that make sense. And I don't want to sound like no hater over here, because I have been producing my podcast, and my podcast, you know, transparently has never reached that particular height that these Fresh and Fit guys are in terms of overall exposure, in terms of just these viral moments and these different things. That's something that I've consistently worked too. And I've grown my own, you know, feelings around my positioning in the space. But more than anything, I know what I'm doing. I know that I care about what I'm doing, and I know that I'm not trying to cause harm by what I'm saying and what I do. But what doesn't make sense to me is that these are the people who propel. These are the people who go forward. These are the people who are getting you to the promised land of your entertainment that day. And they don't have to. You can pay these motherfuckers dust and leave them where they are being stupid. Because I can imagine, and I can bet my bottom dollar, if these types of shows don't get any gas, don't get any numbers, nothing happens, no one's watching, no one's listening, they'll make that decision on their own to stop. That's it. It's too much money, it's too many resources for no one to care. If no one shows any care or concern, if they really can't build community from that, what will make them continue to do it? And if they do it on their own, cool. They really just keep recording their own podcast with friends. Go figure. Nevertheless, this episode won't be too long, so I'll leave a little space for, you know, a few announcements at the end. But I want you all to we have to shine a brighter light on the podcast and the male-led podcasts that are doing it right, that have been doing it well. My brothers in podcasts that I believe are so great, so good at creating the content they create. And I got a few. I shouted them out when I did a Men Plus podcast post on my IG, which you can find. You can still find that up. But I also did a tweet where I kind of, you know, asked people to tag a few different people and, you know, speak to all these different things. And I want to expand and broaden the horizons, and hopefully us to really share each other and create a coalition of men who are actually doing this thing right and support each other, lean on each other, you know, collaborate. And this is a call to that. If you guys if you're listening to this and you have a podcast and you feel like we vibe, you've been enjoying me, you've been wanting to, you know, you want to build, let's build. Hit me up. Just shoot me a DM at the Simply King podcast page on IG, and we can get this conversation going, all right? But I want y'all to know, we have to highlight the shows that are actually doing the good work, that are actually entertaining people, actually informing people, and actually having the conversations that are providing better perspective, better male perspective from the variety of intersections that men can be in. And I think that's where the good content really lies, is where they can be acknowledge those things, be accountable for the choices they make, and accountable for the content that they create. That's really all we got to be in. So, but lastly, I'll give y'all at least a handful of things to put on your listen lists or your watch list if they have, you know, YouTubes or whatever, which I believe all the ones I'm thinking about definitely do. The first one that I'm thinking about that I think is for pure entertainment is My Mama Told Me by Langston Kerman. Langston Kerman is actually the person who played Enterprise Bay in Insecure. Go check his podcast out. It's basically about conspiracies, but he usually comes and he's interviewing various different writers and comedians and you know, black writers and comedians, you know, across television and film. It's really entertaining. And honestly, they talk about a lot of just, black stereotypical superstitions. You know what I'm saying? And some things are regional, some things are wide ranging. Homie the Clown, all types of stuff. I think you guys would really, really enjoy it. So add that to your, what baby girl say? Add that to your watch list. Add it to your listen list. If y'all know, you know. Then I would suggest Guys Next Door, featuring Fly Guy Rye, Mouse Jones, and Mac Wilds. They've been podcasting for quite some time, very popular podcast, but these guys are definitely building a beautiful, beautiful community of people having this exchange, being truly your friends, like being your guys, being your friends next door. So their conversation is very fluid. You can tell they're actually really friends in real life, and they actually have grown over the span of their podcast from relationships to having children to, just growing in success, all different types of things. And they're a great listen, and they bring on some really cool guests. They're New York guys, but it feels like, they welcome all types of flavors, So check them out. Add them to your listen list. Then Black Men Can't Jump podcast. Black Men Can't Jump featuring Gerard Milligan, James III, and Jonathan Braylock. I literally listened to this before I started recording early today. They are essentially a movie review podcast. All the guys actually are part of a sketch comedy troupe called Astronomy Club, which you can view on, I believe you can still view it on Netflix. But they're really three great guys. I've been subscribed for quite some time now, and I think they are so fucking dope. I feel like they're just brilliant people and have really, really great takes on just podcasting. You know what I'm saying? Really great takes just on just overall down podcasting on movies. And their movies are only not male-led, people of color-led movies. And they'll usually bring on other people because these are three black men. But if they're, they talk about Encanto, they'll bring on someone who is of that particular Latin descent, and so on and so on and so forth. It's an all female and women led cast. They'll, bring on women to kind of speak on it. They're great for that. Very conscious guys, very aware guys, but they speak to what they believe these movies give, and they speak to the cause of, does this movie even help and progress us forward to just creating better and genuine diversity in the space? Then you have, let me see. I feel like I don't even really got to even tell y'all who Earn Your Leisure is. Even though Earn Your Leisure sometimes might, they might interview somebody who might be a tad bit problematic. The overall messaging being about financial and actually literally as it says, earning your leisure, is a lot of gems dropped that I believe anybody can benefit from. So definitely add them to your listen list. Let's Talk Bruh. Let's Talk Bruh by Jeremy Hurt. Jeremy Hurt literally is his whole podcast, Let's Talk Bruh, is a podcast about black masculinity. And he comes and he talks about so many things under that umbrella. Brings on great guests to talk about sex in men and sexuality and just how we can show up better, our traumas and therapy and so many different things. He's doing the work. He's probably literally helping so many men out because he has a great community on Facebook that you can join and get the dialogues going, actually creating spaces for men to have these types of vulnerable conversations that we really might not have as much as we need to. So add that to your listen list. Then I'm giving y'all a bunch of them. Okay. Let me see. I'll give y'all one more. Who am I thinking about? Then I would say my boy Marquise Devine. Marquise Devine, honestly, he's a podcast maven of sorts. And he produces a podcast called Rational Anger. But he also produced the Dear Redding podcast as well. And I believe it was a series. I'm assuming it was a limited series called This American Negro as well. Check them all out. Had them on the podcast and definitely willing to bring them back. So if you guys really enjoyed them, which I believe you did, So yeah, check all those podcasts out. Add them to your listen list. Please add them to your listen list. Check them out. You'll enjoy it. It'll be a great time. Just do it. Just do it. But no, it's time to wrap it on up. And for the folks who haven't been here before, what we like to do here is send it on. And my send it on portion for the episode is my call to action. You see what I just did? I gave y'all at least 5 unproblematic Black men specifically who have ongoing, reoccurring, still in production podcasts that you can listen to now, that you can contribute your energy, your time to, and uplift these people. Why not? Just do it. So my call to action, my send it on to you is truly just to share. Share any of the podcasts that you listen to that are male-led, and let's get it going. You can send them to me. I'm going to make sure that I'm posting them and sharing them out for the rest of the week. I want this to stop. Men in podcasts, those men in podcasts, those crunchy looking dudes, the fresh, the fits, the ills and the its, whatever they are, whatever they want to call themselves this week, they don't need your attention. Go and get somebody who's entertaining. Go and get somebody who's actually educating you. Go and get some perspective that these are 3 men with unique perspectives that might give you some perspective on your own situation, where you can interact, where you can support, and you may actually get even more resources for something that you need for your life. If that is just clearing your mind out on a perspective, on a situation you're in, or maybe even getting you some money if you listen to Earn Your Leisure. That's all I'm saying. But that is all for today. I'll be back next week. And next week, I'll having a beautiful, beautiful guest on next week that you guys are certainly going to enjoy. Got a lot of great guests lining up for this year. I'm launching my Patreon this month. Let's get the home. I need some more sounds. Where my sounds at? Patreon coming. Patreon dropping this year. And not this year, this month, excuse me. I'm not going to make y'all wait that long. Details on that will be dropped real soon. Nevertheless, make sure that you follow me everywhere, Kings_Memoirs. Make sure you follow my podcast at Simply King Pod. Make sure you follow my business page at Life is King on IG, all those on IG. Make sure you check out all the services that I have to offer you at www.lifeisking.com. I appreciate y'all. As always, like, rate, and share. And this is the Soulfully Conscious Podcast for humans, simply being humans. I've been Rodney Perry, and this has been Simply King. Peace.